Hello there, everybody. Welcome back to the Express Entry Live Q&A. This is Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer and ex-immigration officer, coming to you live this beautiful Thursday afternoon. Today is April the 18th, and it is approximately 3:04 p.m. I'm starting just a couple minutes behind. But today is going to be a fun session. Today, I'm going to talk initially about my top 5 things that you need to do first before you even consider submitting your Express Entry profile. So we'll give you guys a few minutes to all jump on here and get connected. Those of you who are new to this, let's see here if I've got right there. This right here, coupled with this one right here, is how you can send a question for me to consider in our upcoming EE Live Q&As. Now, each of these you'll see are going to be kind of focused on particular themes. And if you're wondering, okay, Mark, well, what theme is coming up here? I'm going to go here and I'm going to share you my screen, which is the best part of this software program that I have, is the ability to share screen. So I'll open this up here. There you go. You can see it. Spectacular. So right at the top here in the banner image now, I have the list of topics. So today, April the 18th, top 5 things to do first. And generally, all of these are going to start at 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, except on the dates that have asterisks beside them, which essentially is June 25th. And so April 18th is the top 5 things to do first. Then the 25th is how to maximize your CRS score. May 2nd, work history, education, police certificates, job offers, top 5 reasons for refusal, which I'll cover May 28th, immigration medicals, proof of funds, non-accompanying spouses, and dependent family members generally. So these are all the topics that I'm going to be covering, so you can stay tuned. But today is the top 5 things to do first. So excuse me, as we wait for people to connect in here, those of you who want to send questions in related to these topics, if it's a general one, like today, top 5 things to do first, it's pretty open. So I'm not going to restrict too many questions, but or how to maximize your CRS score. But when it comes to May 2nd, May 10th, 16th, so the questions need to be focused on those topics so we can really drill down. So work history, education, police certificates, I'm going to deal with those ones first. And then when people, I'll open it up at the end for general questions. And that way it's going to make this just a little bit more focused for people who are watching these as recordings. And let's face it, right now, there's a lot of people that are watching them as a recording, way more than are attending live. So how do you, excuse me. So how do you get your question answered? Well, it's pretty simple. You're going to send an email to stephanie@stringham.ca, and then you're going to put EE Live Q&A in the subject line. And if you do that, then you're going to have an opportunity to get your question answered. All right, I want to give a shout out to my flames here in the top corner here of the image. Oh, guys, they're on the ropes. They had a great first game, and then after that first game, they lost the next 3. So they are 1 game away from being eliminated from the Stanley Cup playoffs, and I am in tears. I am crying, but it happens, so that's all right. That's the nature of hockey. They can still come back. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that my Flames are going to come back. And as long as they're still in the playoffs, I'm going to keep my Calgary Flames NHL hockey teams, their logo, in my EE Live Q&A. But if if they drop out, then I'll pull the logo off. All right. Okay, so it's great to connect. Those of you who have questions, I'll get you to hold off on those first. I'm going to start off by basically covering the topic of the day, which is the top 5 things to do first. And so let's see if I can open this up. And I'm just going to open up the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to share my screen with you all, and I think this should work. So let's see if I can do this. I am going to open this up. And I've been experimenting with this a little bit before. Okay, so it's here. Now I think if I switch over to full, yes, nice. Okay, so we are in business. So those of you who are just tuning in, I'm actually, I am going to pull my little flames off so that it doesn't get in the way, as well as all of the other things floating around here. And I think my actual image, I think, is probably going to be all right. So if I leave my ugly mug up here in the top corner, we should be okay. So let's go through this. And I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to take a few minutes to just cover my top 5 things that you need to do before you submit your Express Entry profile. So without further ado, let's jump in here as we have other people listening. Okay, right off the bat. This is where I actually want to be, guys. And pretty soon the sun's going to be shining. There's a little bit of snow still in the back peaks, but this is Waterton. This is where I go to find peace and tranquility when the practice of law is weighing down and I'm about ready to quit. This is where I go to find that solitude and just to recharge. I know all of you guys have similar places, but this is mine. So if you want to look up on a map, Waterton National Park, that's where I love to spend time. All right. Now, this is all about you kind people out there who are interested in going through Express Entry, but you don't have a clue where to start or what to do first. Well, just like this guy here, you're going to go online, you're going to search all over the place, you're going to go to the government website, and you're going to find this list of things that you should do. And one of the first things it tells you to do is you need to write a language test. You need to get your educational credentials assessed. Well, guys, I am here to save you money. So before we even do anything else, what we're going to start with right now is me preventing some of you from wasting $500. I don't want you to do that. So don't follow IRCC's instructions. Don't. Listen to me. I'll tell you what to do first. And for some of you, you'll be thanking me because you've saved yourself not only lots of time and effort, but $500 out of your pocket. And remember, that's Canadian. All right, so the first thing, like I said, do not rush off and get a language test, whether it's CELPIP or IELTS. So right off the bat, I'm going to save you $265 to $300 Canadian. Next, do not rush off and get an ECA from one of these organizations. Just don't do it. That'll save you $200 to $226. So between the two here, we're probably looking at as much as $526 or more, obviously. Okay, so here's the first thing that you need to do. You need to assess your admissibility to Canada. I'll cover that in a second. Next, determine if you have at least 1 year of skilled work experience. If you don't have that, well, you're not even getting through the gate. Next, take a language test, then get your ECA done, then determine if you qualify for one of the PR programs. Okay, Federal Skilled Worker, CEC, Federal Skilled Trades, or one of the PNP programs. Okay, let's move into the first one, which is admissibility to Canada. Guys, if you have a recent criminal conviction that is serious criminality or something that would equate to an indictable offense in Canada, you're going to be inadmissible to Canada and you won't even be able to come in. On that same note, some of you may have medical conditions that would make you medically inadmissible to Canada. Now, for both of those, you're probably going to want to contact myself or another immigration lawyer to assess that. If it's an issue for you, you can book a consult. I'll have Stephanie post the link to our consult page. And then we'll also make sure that we put it in the description that you can look at on our YouTube channel for this video. You can go there and there'll be a link for how to book a consult with me. The third is misrep. Some of you have made mistakes in the past. You've listened to some useless consultant or someone who's told you to say something in your application, and then you've gotten your application refused for misrepresentation. Well, that's a 5-year bar. And if you're trying to get in and apply through Express Entry now that you've got good work experience, good education, but you've got that 5-year bar, well, you're not getting through the gate. So that's the first thing. Assess your admissibility to Canada. Next, do you have 1 year of skilled work experience? That's important. Well, what is 1 year? It's at least 1 year's 1,560 hours of continuous full-time or an equal amount in part-time skilled work experience. But that's not it. Okay, so remember, it has to be at least 1 year. Full-time means at least 30 hours of paid work per week. Or if it's part-time, 15 hours over basically 2 years. It has to be in the same job or in the same knock. Doesn't mean you can't combine work experiences with multiple employers, but it has to be all under the same knock. And then it has to be within 10 years. If your work experience is older than 10 years, you can't count it. And then finally, it has to be at a skilled level, 0, A, or B on Canada's National Occupational Classification System. So that's essentially the skilled work experience. And I also want to point out that at least 1 year literally means 1 year. If you've worked brutal hours, 80 hours a week, and you've accumulated 1,560 hours in a, well, let's say a 7-month period, well, that don't cut it. They only will count up to a maximum of 30 hours. So you actually have to work for a full year. And yeah, there's a whole bunch of other issues associated with this. But if you don't have the 1 year, don't bother even getting an ECA, an educational credential assessment, or getting your IELTS test written, because at the end of the day, you're not going to be able to get through the gate. Okay, so if you need a little bit of help determining whether or not you have skilled work experience, this is a great blog post that I did just shortly after Express Entry was launched, but it's still totally valid, and I've updated it. You can go and just search Express Entry, the secret to finding your correct knock, and maybe I'll have Stephanie track that down and put that also in the comment section, and we'll put a link to it in the in the description for the video as well. All right, next, once you've got that, you're admissible. You have 1 year of skilled work experience. Now take the test, okay? But remember, take the test first before you waste your time with an ECA. So it must be an approved testing center, IELTS or CELPIP. And in the past, CELPIP was only in Canada, but now in some places in the world, you can actually write the CELPIP if you don't like the IELTS. Then remember that after you write it, you have to meet a minimum threshold. For the Canadian experience class, if you're actually working in Canada and have at least 1 year of Canadian work experience, then for a NOC skill level B, which is kind of a trade or technical position, you have to have at least a CLB 5. And for everybody else, it's a CLB 7. And if you look down here, Federal Skilled Worker Program, it's CLB 7 for all skill levels. Now, it's easy to equate CELPIP because that's just the same as the Canadian language benchmark. A 5 in listening on CELPIP equals a 5, a CLB 5 for the Canadian language benchmark. But with IELTS, if you want to meet that minimum 7, it's actually all 6s. But this actually, I made a mistake on here now that I see it. It's CLB 9, which I'm not going to get into in big detail because this is just eligibility. So please note, I have made a little mistake here. The Federal Skilled Worker Program, CLB 7 is 6s across the board for IELTS. But to get the CLB 9, which is really what you take to maximize your points and even have a chance of getting an invitation to apply, it's actually the 8 for listening and 7 in all the other abilities. For CELPIP, it's just 7 in all the abilities. 7 is 7. So just to clarify, for IELTS, the 8777 is actually for a CLB 9, and it's actually just 6 equates to a CLB 7 for the purposes of the Federal Skilled Worker Program and the Canadian Language Benchmark. Okay, so if you meet these minimums, and remember, it's not 9. 9 isn't the minimum to get into the pool. It's just a CLB 7, a Canadian Language Benchmark 7. But just because you get in doesn't mean you're going to get an ITA. Okay, so then you take the language test. If your CLB is too low, you're ineligible. You're just not even going to get through the gate. So don't waste time applying for an educational credential assessment if your language scores are too low. Now, you can always increase them. Language, you can always rewrite them and retake them. And an educational credential assessment is valid for 5 years, but why waste the money if you don't have a prayer of qualifying? Now is the time you get your educational credentials. If your language is good enough, go to one of these organizations, and it must be with one of these designated organizations. If you've got a master's in India, for instance, and WES assesses it as, or World Education Services assesses it as only a bachelor's degree, well, then consider one of the other educational credential assessment agencies to see if they may equate it to a master's. And that happens sometimes. All right. Another thing to remember, you're only going to get comprehensive ranking system points for education with an ECA. So if you want to count your education, you have to get one of these educational credential assessments from one of these organizations. All right. Finally, determine if you qualify for one of the PR programs. So you might meet all of these other things that I've talked about, but you still have to meet the requirements of one of the programs. And this is what people don't even understand sometimes, that this is happening. They just assume that, if they have an English language test that scores high and they've got their education, it's good, that, then it's an automatic. And in many cases it is. If you score really high on your human capital, that's your language ability, your work history, your education, and your age essentially is in the right range. Usually if you have really high human capital, this isn't going to be an issue, but you need to pay attention to it. So first off, which is most of you guys, is the Federal Skilled Worker Program. And we went through the fact that it has to be 1 year of skilled work, continuous. It has to be paid in the same knock, 10 years, 0 AOB, language. We've talked about that. But it also has to meet the 67 points on the 6 selection factors that are associated with this. And you need to have the minimum proof of funds. So those are 2 other things you have to identify. For the Canadian Experience class, if you're actually working in Canada, you're a postgrad student, you've accumulated that 1 year, well, you have to show at least 12 months of full-time or an equal amount of part-time skilled work experience in Canada in the previous 3 years. The advantage to the CEC is that you don't have to have continuous employment. You can have little bits and pieces and sections. But there's a couple things you need to understand. Only legal work counts, so you can't be in Canada illegally and accumulate Canadian work experience. And then you can see here for the language, you have to meet the minimum language, which is for NOC B, it's a CLB 5. For NOC A or O, it's a CLB 7. And then work experience that's gained in Canada it won't be counted if you're a full-time student or self-employed. So while you're holding that study permit, you're not going to get work experience towards CEC as an international student working on your study permit. And then you have to plan to live outside Quebec. And then the final program, which we don't talk about much, which really there should be a draw coming out pretty soon for the Federal Skilled Trade Program. We're probably overdue. These are the requirements. 2 years of full-time work experience in the trade in the previous 5 years. You have to meet the requirements, of course, except a Canadian certification. You don't necessarily need to have that. You have to have an offer of full-time employment for 1 year, or if you don't have that offer, then you need the certificate of qualification from a province or territory. The CLB 5 is only required for speaking and listening. It's actually a lower level CLB 4 for reading and writing, and then plan to live outside Quebec. So there you go, guys. So hopefully you're not like this person who's just followed my instructions and realized that they are not eligible. So do what you can to fix what you can fix. If you're in this situation and you want to book a consult, you can reach out to us and we can do that. But understand at the end of the day, this is really where the rubber hits the road. So you have to be able to demonstrate that you are, well, let's just jump back again and I'll just show you quickly here right at the beginning. Right here, you have to be able to demonstrate these things, okay? And I think I believe I'm showing it to you. Yes. So you have to be able to show that you're admissible, that you have the 1 year of skilled work experience, then take the test, then do your ECA, and then determine if you qualify for one of the programs. All right. So that is the teaching moment of the day. Hopefully it was helpful for you. Now is the time where we're going to shift and I'm going to address the various listener questions that have been sent in. We've got a couple today, mostly because we forgot to announce the EE Live Q&A, and so we didn't get too many that came in. They're both today related to proof of funds. And then once we've completed this, I'll open up to all the listeners for you to post your questions in the comment section. And remember, as I'm going through and answering these email questions, don't start posting because I'm not going to look at it, the questions, until I'm completed answering these. Okay, so the first question, this is from Samrat, and he says, let's see, this is Samrat. I know you've changed your time due to a conflict. Okay, great. 2:30 a.m. Indian Standard Time, even though I would join in for the same, as you're doing a wonderful job in helping people like us. You're very welcome, Samrat. Okay, so you mentioned that if one has a secured loan, which is backed by an asset, then it wouldn't affect the proof of funds. I would not have to add the loan amount to the funds required if the loan amount is not huge. Okay, well, I'm not sure if I exactly said that, but the reality is immigration doesn't take your loans and necessarily subtract them from your assets that you have in your bank account. It doesn't work that way. They look at all of your background, all of your financial, your story, basically, your history. And then from there, they're able to determine whether or not they feel that your obligations, in other words, the payments on those loans, whether or not they're going to be so high that really you're not going to have enough funds to settle in Canada. So you do need to meet the minimum settlement funds, that's for sure. And right now it's just a little bit under $13,000 for a single individual. But the proof of funds amount, you need to be able to demonstrate it. But the loans or other debts that you have doesn't necessarily mean that you have to pay all of those off first in order to be able to demonstrate the funds. But you do need to show that you've got a method for maintaining those loans and making those payments while still having plenty to settle in Canada. All right, so the question here says, I have an unsecured loan of $10,000 due to some personal reasons, okay, with a monthly payment of approximately $285 Canadian. I'm applying with my spouse, and as such, we're required to have around $16,000 in Canadian funds. That's correct, it's close to that. I have liquid funds of around $20,000. So do I need to have $26,000 approximately to submit my profile? Canadian $16,000 plus $10K or the current fund that I have around $20K would be fine. I'm a little bit confused as to what should I do in my case here. So this question specifically addresses what I just explained. $16,000 is the settlement funds. If you have a loan of $10,000, that doesn't mean that you have to have proof of funds of $26,000 to accommodate for that loan. That's not the case. If your payments are $285, then I would address that in a letter of explanation. And that's, over a 6-month period or however long it takes you to actually get settled in Canada. Well, that's not a ton of money. Like $285 maybe over 10 months is $850. So it's always good to have more than the minimum amount. So if $16,000 is there and you have 20, you're totally fine. I can't see any reason, excuse me, why an officer would take issue with that. You've got a mechanism in place to more than meet the servicing of the loan over a long period of time, and with your funds, because they're in excess of what the government wants. So great question, Samrat. Okay, next question is from Usman, and Usman says, Dear Mr. Holthe, the proof of funds letter that I had submitted with my application, okay, it looks like Usman has already submitted his EAPR. And like I'll tell all of you guys, the time to reach out and ask me the questions is before you submit your EAPR. And in fact, you all should have purchased my guide and followed the instructions and saved yourself a ton of money and time and resources. And you would have been able to avoid many of these questions you're asking me now. So I'm assuming Usman has submitted the EAPR. Usman says, I have submitted my account statements, credit card statements, and credit card transaction history. Okay, that's thorough, you bet. I have the account statement. In the account statement, so the statement for his account, there are transactions of credit card dues payment. The description of those transactions is blah, 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 CC payment. Okay. I'm worried that IRCC might confuse those transactions as the payment of some kind of loan. Although I don't have any loan from the bank. My proof of funds doesn't explicitly state that I don't have a loan. Those transactions also appear in the credit card statements and transaction history. Should a case-specific inquiry be raised to explain that? Well, you have indicated here that you've submitted your account statement, credit card statement, and credit card transaction history. So an officer, if they're wondering what that could be, when I look at your description here, which says Al Ali Finance CC payment, that's probably going to be intuitively meaning it's going to be a credit card payment coming out of your account. And if you've already submitted the statements for the credit cards, you can see what was on your credit card statement, and you can see that the payment was being made for that. So although, yeah, it might have been good to include a letter of explanation, I don't see any reason to raise a CSE or to submit a case-specific inquiry to the government to explain that or correct it. It's just not a great, it's not something I would worry about. So you're totally fine, Usman. I don't see an issue with that. At least if an officer comes back, you can easily explain that. All right. Woo. We are now at the stage where we are going to jump in, and I'm going to open up our screen here. I'm going to see if I can find our live feed, and I'm going to now, you can start posting your questions here. So let's see if we can find, okay, here it is. I'm going to mute that, and I'm going to pull up the questions, and we're going to start with Leah. Okay. So actually Lay, I think is what it's pronounced. Okay. So Lay says, hi, Mark. My husband is currently now in Winnipeg. Cool. I'll be going there next month for our national immigration conference. I have the pleasure of presenting on Express Entry with another colleague, Sarah Fagan, who is practicing in Ontario, and with the government officers who run the Express Entry program. And so if you have any questions, you can always send them to me that you want the officers to answer. So all right, so this is Leah. So she says, hi, Mark. My husband is currently now in Winnipeg and he is under an open work permit. Okay, great. That's the post-grad work permit. Can he able to apply as Express Entry? Okay, that's a good question. You'd need to book a consultation with me for me to assess that, because I need way more information than just that in order to do it. So Stephanie will post, actually, she's already posted a link to just above in the comments, the link to book a paid consult. So I can't assess eligibility in the context of an EE Live Q&A. All right. And also remember to keep your comments not too big, because I don't want to spend 2 minutes reading them. It's not fair to the other folks watching. Okay. So Afsar says, hi, good to see you again. My question is about initial landing. I chose Alberta as a province of destination. However, flights to Toronto are much cheaper comparatively. Also, my aunt resides in Toronto and I want to book my first flight only to Toronto, stay at her place for a day, and later take flight to Edmonton. That means, can I do landing in Toronto even though I mentioned Alberta in my EE profile? Also, if I permanently decide to stay in another province other than Alberta, as I mentioned in my EE profile, right from day one, then will it be a misrepresentation? Just to clarify, I'm not a PNP EE applicant. Afsar, to start with, there's no reason in the world you would ever want to live in any other province than this amazing province of Alberta, especially after our most recent election, where our new soon-to-be premier, Jason Kenney, has confirmed that Alberta is open for business again, which I'm hoping means that our industries and our oil and gas industry and everything else and all of the other excuse me, with a much more focused business attention from our government, that it's going to create more jobs and more opportunities. And Alberta will once again have the Alberta advantage and be a place for all of you awesome people to want to come work. And so you're never going to want to live in Toronto. Why would you want to do that? But if for whatever reason let's see what you've got here. You're going to go see, let's see, I'm trying to remember who you're seeing here. Your aunt, that's right. If your aunt says, oh, I've got a job for you, great opportunities, then you're totally fine, Afsar. It's only the PNP candidates who are nominated by a province that they've got to be concerned and make sure they're actually going to that province. You're totally fine if you do want to live in Ontario, even though I definitely wouldn't encourage you to do that. All right. Okay, next question. This is from Lisa. And Lisa says, my current profile, stats questions review required because applicant answered yes to the questions. Does it take CIC a long time to get that reviewed and verified? I answered yes to one of the stat questions. Okay, so she's talking about the statutory questions where it asks, have you ever been an Al-Qaeda warrior, or are you a terrorist? Well, okay, it doesn't specifically say that, but that's what it's getting at. Do you have prior criminality? Have you advocated armed struggle? You know, have you had a prior refusal, a visa refusal in another country? That's what those stats questions. So Lisa has answered yes to those questions, and it just depends on the officer. I can't even give you a timeline. Processing times, once you have any inquiry from IRCC to answer a follow-up question, the 6-month processing standard is out the door. They can take as long as they want. So Lisa, I can't even answer that one for you. Okay, so next question is from Leah, and she says, if you're going here in Winnipeg next week, would there be any possible way to make a personal consultation with you? I'm actually, Leah, I'm actually not going to Winnipeg until the end of May. So, and yeah, I probably won't do personal consults, although I guess I could. I never really thought of that. But I'm traveling to the conference, and because of that, I'm going to be because I'm the secretary of our national immigration section of the Canadian Bar Association. I will be very busy. I've got meetings, executive meetings before the conference starts. And then that time right there is going to be focused on helping the organizing committee and everything actually carry forward with our national conference. So probably not, but Leah, if you want to book a consult with Stephanie right now, she can totally do that for you. Okay. Next question. Umang says, can you explain me why BC PNP is higher since it's been launched? Let's see what we got here. Since it's been launched, the PNP program. Umang, I have no clue entirely what you're asking. But even with the PNPs, this is just focused on express entry. So there's too many different nuances with the various provincial nominee programs. So I'm going to pass on that question, my friend. Gray says, do diploma holders have any chances in the EE system? Well, the reality is you're losing a lot of points if you just have a diploma. In other words, what we're talking about is a degree or credential that's under 3 years. So even those who have a 3-year undergraduate degree, it can be difficult for them. But diploma holders, you need to maximize your age. So you definitely couldn't be 30 years old. You'd have to be younger. You'd have to be off the charts on your English. So your IELTS scores would have to be like across the board, like 10s or 11s or whatever. And that's the most important part of the whole thing. But if you don't have Canadian work experience, you don't have Canadian study experience, the scores and the rounds of invitation, the last one we had was 451, and they're just going to get higher and higher and higher. So understand that it's probably going to be really hard, Gray. All right, unless you have a connection to Canada. Okay, Ashvak says, how to set up an appointment with you personally? Is the initial call free or what's the package? My score is 324. My wife and I are taking IELTS again and hoping to get CLB 9. Do you think would that make any difference? 100%. I'll tell you, Ashvak, if you do not yet have CLB 9, then yeah, that's going to cause you to increase your score astronomically. And in my future EE Live Q&As, I'm actually going to cover that. But at this stage, yeah. And as far as booking the consult, no, I definitely don't do free consultations. My time is extremely high in demand, and I charge for my consults. And right now, for that 30-minute consult or 25 minutes that I offer, it costs $200 Canadian plus 5% sales tax in Alberta, which is the cheapest in the province. Equates to about $210 Canadian for the 25-minute consult. But guys, in that consult, and you can go search our group, I answer everybody's question. I go through and you leave that consult with your questions answered. And so is it worth it? Well, I never ever want a client ever to call me and then feel like the consult was not helpful to them. So there you go. You can just click on the link up above in the comments, Ashvak, and that will take you to our firm website where you can leave your information and then Stephanie will get back to you. Okay, Henny here says, can I hire you as a representative to apply on my behalf for an express entry? And how much does it take as I have everything in order? Oh, Zenny. Okay, I got to show you guys this, okay? Lately, I had a consult this morning actually with a client who really just wants me to fully represent him, and that's totally cool. I don't have an issue with that. I'm happy to do it. But for many of you, I'm just going to show you. I'm going to go back here. If you go up to the top of our group right here, and then you find the section that's announcements and click on See All right here, and you scroll down, you will see past EE Live Q&As, polls, and a number of other things until you get to the very bottom. And at the bottom, is my service levels. I probably should do a better job at advertising this, but I actually offer a number of different services. And one of the most important ones, so I've got a consult. You can purchase the guide. You can purchase the bronze plan, which is just document review to make sure that the documents are correct, or the silver plan, which is my best value plan. I charge $2,500 plus GST Canadian, and you maintain control over your own application. You create your own MyCIC. I represent you from the standpoint of going through everything. I go through your full profile, your EAPR, all of the answers, all of your documents. I even help you draft your letters of explanation. And we do it via a Skype screen share, just like you're seeing now. I open up your portal, we look through it, we go through every questions, we upload all your documents together to make sure that they're all correct. And when you submit it, that application is as correct as it could possibly be based on your circumstances and the information that you have and are able to obtain. And so you have complete peace of mind because I'm the one on the other side actually working through it with you. So that's the best value plan, the silver plan. But some people just want the peace of mind. They want someone else to manage it. And so that's the gold plan. And I charge $5,000 Canadian plus 5% GST for that service. And then the processing fees, we can also pay through our office here. And they are basically the $1,040 per adult, $150 per minor children, and then the biometric fee that is also $85 or depends upon your family size. So the silver plan is the one that I love. It is so awesome. You maintain control over your own application. Nothing's more frustrating for me as a representative or for you to want to get updates all the time on your application. Well, if it's in my portal, I only update when there's an actual reason to update. I don't just give phantom, here's where it's at. If there's no change, I'm not going to take the time to advise you every week that there's been no change. It's pointless. It's a waste of time from our office and it's a waste of time for you. But if you have control, you can map through the whole process. You can see exactly where things are at. You submit your own application, but you get all of me. And most importantly, because of the immigration laws in Canada, I give you a use of representative and we fully disclose to immigration that I've helped you with your application. But instead of me filing it through my representative portal, you get to file it through your own and maintain your own control. It's awesome. I love it. And so that's the one that I encourage everybody considers. Okay, let's see if I can jump back here now to our, let's see if I can actually find it. Oh, I've got so much going on here. Okay, I'll close this. I'm going to go back to our live feed and then I'll see if I can find the next question. If I skip through you, I'm sorry. I'm doing my very, very best not to have that happen. But let's just see if I can find the live feed here. Oh, and of course I can't find it. Oh, wait a minute. Here, I found it. I'm back. Okay, awesome. Okay, so let's go through and see if I can figure out where I left off because half of the time I can't ever figure it out. Okay, so that was Zenny, I think, that asked that question. And Zenny, if you want to do that silver plan because you already have everything in order, that's definitely the one for you. So just reach out to Stephanie. You can send her an email and excuse me, I think you can connect with her directly in the feed. She's there, or you can just go through the intake form as well on our firm website at the link that Stephanie has provided. Okay, Sarish says, I've been nominated by the Manitoba PNP. Is there any option that I can reside in Ontario other than Manitoba? Please elaborate. Sarish, 100% no. And anyone who tells you, yeah, it's totally fine to take a Manitoba provincial nomination and then go live in Ontario needs to be disbarred as a lawyer or forever removed from ever being an immigration consultant because that's awful. Those nomination spots are specifically designed to have people live in those provinces to make them better, to bring their skills, their talent, their ability, and to create opportunities and to make that province better. And they're precious. And when I hear of people who take a nomination and then ultimately never live there and go to some other province, I hate it. It's disgraceful. I don't like it. And I never, ever, ever want anyone to do that. So in your case, Suresh, if that is your pathway to permanent residence in Canada, then go. Manitoba is where I went to law school. It's a wonderful province. It's a great place to raise a family. And that's the only advice I can give you. There's other people that might be cute and try to give you explanations in terms of the charter and freedom of mobility and your ability to go and live in other provinces, but not me. I'm not going to, because if you have been granted a nomination, you are so lucky. And there's 10,000 other people out there that I don't know what they would do to get that nomination. So that's all I can answer. Okay. Okay, let's see what we have next here. Okay. Ariane says, can a SIMP, a Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program candidate, still apply for express entry? Well, if you've applied through the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program through one of the programs that are not express entry focused, yeah, there's nothing stopping you from submitting an express entry profile and going down that route. But if you are going through one of the streams related to express entry, then that's a different story. Then they probably don't want you having two applications in the stream at the same time. But when the questions are asked within any of the forms for the Saskatchewan Immigrant Nominee Program, you need to fully disclose if you do have a profile, or if it asks if you have other express entry applications or other permanent resident applications in the queue. If that question ever comes up, you need to answer truthfully. Okay, Umang says, I plan to go to the Express Entry BC for my Express Entry with the help of PNP, which will boost my points. Yes, it will, by as much as 600. I will have my 1-year experience on July 9th, 2019. Great. Okay, and then Stephanie put the link there. Okay, Dave says, hi, Mark. I'm on my post-grad open work permit. Awesome. Very cool. And my wife is my dependent on her work permit, a spousal work permit. Great. So can I proceed my express entry profile without accompanying her? Okay, now that is strange. Okay, so I'm assuming your CRS score at this stage is too low. And so you want to list your spouse as non-accompanying because her education and her language is probably low, which means you're losing a lot of those 30 points that are attributed to her. Well, Dave, if she's here in Canada with you, a dependent, and she's working on an open spousal work permit, an officer is going to have real questions about that. You need to figure out what province you're in. You know, maybe your employer in whatever province you're in is going to be willing to support your permanent resident application through one of the PNP programs outside of express entry. But to have a spouse here and say they're non-accompanying when they're actually here working, I think an officer is going to have some questions about whether or not that's a legitimate answer in your application forms. Yeah. Okay. Raheem says, hi, Mark. I submitted my profile recently, and while trying to use my salary account for my application fee, it got declined and had to use my proof of funds account as I was running out of time. I have transferred the fund from my salary back to my proof of funds account after the acknowledgement of receipt. Will that cause any issues? Raheem, any changes that you make that are different than what you originally put in your application, no matter what the area is, it could potentially be an issue. But your situation here, as you've described it, I can't answer that question without actually looking at everything, seeing how you answered your questions, the documents that you submitted. So Raheem, I'd have to point you to a consult to be able to adequately address what you have there. Could it be a problem? Yeah, it could. Okay, Afsar says, who do you think will win the federal election this year? Do you think they will make changes to PR citizenship current rules? I don't think any of them are going to make any significant changes to express entry. I think generally the government thinks it's a good thing. And remember, the political party, yes, can make changes to any of the programs that they don't like. They can shift the weighting of certain factors within the comprehensive ranking system. You know, the immigration minister has the ability to make a lot of changes. But I think express entry itself is working pretty good. And so, they might make some changes with citizenship or other things like that. I wouldn't anticipate there being any changes. Ultimately, who do I think will win? I'm not sure. Who do I hope will win? Well, I make no bones the fact that I do support the Conservatives and do hope that they get in. But the Liberals, I'm not going to knock them. They've done a lot of good within the immigration department, and so I've got mixed feelings about that too. I think both parties would be just fine, and that our immigration departments are doing a really good job with what they're doing. Although I will express some discontent over how they've treated the immigration consultant issue, and I just feel like there's too many people that are exposed to awful consultants and no protection and no safeguards, and they're just being exploited. And so that's my only serious concern with the Liberals and how they've managed that particular issue is the consultant issue. And don't get me wrong, there's some good consultants out there, but there are far more awful, terrible consultants that exploit people, take advantage of them, and there's no mechanism to stop them. And now the government's spending $10 million of our taxpayer money to create this new regulatory regime, which it's not going to get at all of the issues that have always been an issue. So that's a separate discussion. Okay, Azamu says, for Manitoba Express Entry PNP, is it necessary to get, so PNP stuff I'm going to avoid, guys. So keep it focused on Express Entry. Boy, I should have brought a glass of water here. All right. Shamoon says, hi, Mark, trust all is well at your end. I want to know if a person from Pakistan having overseas work experience of a grocery store or any other such full-time job and fulfilling other requirements like age, language, education, etc., eligible for EE. Shamoon, same story. I'll direct you for the eligibility questions to Stephanie to book a consult. But if because I have no clue what your work experience is in the grocery store. If you're just, a teller who's taking the groceries, then that's probably a low skill, wouldn't work. If you actually own the grocery store and manage it, that's skilled. So yeah, you can count it. But that assessment is really best done in a consult. All right, Mohammed says, I've just put this drama in Express Entry flight. When you people loot people, okay. Nice. Okay. I have no clue what he's saying. Here, I'll show you what I'll do here. So, Mohammed, I'm just going to read your question here. I'm just trying to understand. Yeah, so that actually makes no sense. But what I can do here is go into, and I'll just take a few seconds here, and we'll just block Muhammad because I have no clue what he's saying. And then I will identify for my moderators that, our good friend here, we can basically just get rid of him. And that serves the purpose there. Awesome. Okay, next Azamu says, same thing, PNP question. I love people who have nothing better to do than try to disrupt things. That's awesome. Okay, Shamoon says, hi, Mark, trust all is well at your end. Okay, so that's the grocery store. We read that one already. Okay, so Sal says, hi, Mark, what is the timeline from getting an ITA to getting PR card? Applied from Canada. Approximately how many months? Sal, 6 months processing is what immigration has stated is the standard for them to process a permanent resident application. After you've received your ITA and have filed your EAPR, it is approximately 6 months. So that's the only date that I can give you. Sometimes it comes back faster in Canada than maybe it comes back overseas, through the federal skilled worker program. Sometimes the Canadian experience class comes back faster, but 6 months processing is what the government says. Okay, Maureen says, hi, Mark, can we show our salary account as proof of funds account? Sure. There's no issues with that, as long as you can show that the minimum balance that you've carried in that salary account is at the proof of funds level. And that's pretty much all you need to do. All right. Okay, well, today was a really good episode. I think we covered a ton of questions. I want to thank all of you for posting your questions and being involved. And I was pretty happy with this one because ultimately I was able to do some solid teaching at the beginning. And I'll put my nice Calgary Flames up here. Actually, I wonder, yeah, we'll leave that one up there. Actually, I got a better one, I think. Let's see, where is it? Oh, that's the one. Oh, no, that's too big. Let's, this is awesome. Before I had a number of these I was experimenting with to see which one works. There we go. I'll put that one back. So just a reminder to all of you guys that if you want to have your question answered in future episodes of the EE Live Q&A, the best way to do that is to send an email to Stephanie. And I'm looking through all of my emails again, trying to find the right one. So there it is there. And don't forget to put, if I can find it, there it is, Express Entry. Actually, you're going to put EE Live Q&A. It's been one of those days, guys. It really has. Wow, it's been one of those days. Let's see if I can find it here. There it is. Okay, this right here. So you're going to put EE Live Q&A in your email to Stephanie, and she will consider your question for an upcoming Express Entry Live Q&A. I also want to remind everyone, as I shift back here, and I'm going to share my screen again, if you go to the top of our Express Entry Law Facebook page, you can see that the banner image now lists all of the dates and the topics that I'll be covering in my EE Live Q&As. And so next week, April 25th, I'm going to talk about how to maximize your comprehensive ranking system score. And I think this one's going to be awesome. So if you want to tune in live, request to join our group that is just about 121,000 now. Looks like 2 more people want to join. So let's see here. Okay, they answered my question, and this person here answered the question, and this person here has not answered the question, so I decline. So it's pretty simple. If you answer the questions, I will admit you as a member of the group. If you don't, then I will decline you. But at the top, in here in the banner image, you'll see those topics. So how to maximize your CRS is the next one that's coming up. And I guess I should probably shift this back down here. And so, yeah, so that's it for today. I want to thank everybody for participating, for those that sent in questions. Special thanks to Stephanie for hanging out and helping me to get a good, to get those links up for everybody. And if you ever need any questions that you just can't find answers to, obviously I'm available to do a consultation at any time. But guys, all of you, all over, wherever you're at, I have to point out time and time again that the Canadian Immigration Institute, they are the ones, well, it's really my Canadian Immigration Institute, is the sponsor of this EE Live Q&A. And my Express Entry Complete Step-by-Step Guide to Doing It Yourself is a complete step-by-step guide. And I'll let you in on a little secret. As of tonight, I'm going to be releasing a new promotion specifically targeted to all of you wonderful listeners of the EE Live Q&A and all of you out there who follow me on our YouTube channel. And I'm going to go right here and see if I can find, actually, I wonder if I actually have this linked up. 1 second here. YouTube. If you go to, and it looks like I am not logged in. All right. If you search for Canadian Immigration Institute on YouTube, maybe it's good that I'm not logged in. You will find it right here, and then you can click on it. And right here is where I have all of my past videos posted. And this one will go up here, including my Go Flames Go. And so if you scroll down here, here's the complete step-by-step guide. All of the steps, everything that you, actually went in here. This is exactly what it looks like. And so there's lessons for every topic: learning the basics, preparing to submit your Express Entry profile, completing your profile. Module 4 is all about the EAPR, if that's the stage that you're at, and then uploading your documents and the member resource section. So this member resource section has a ton of specific content geared to all of the questions that tend to be really narrow or focused on certain aspects that people struggle with: proof of funds, job offers, non-accompanying spouses, eligibility, education, everything. And so I've got a ton down here. You can see all of these special videos. They're all a part of this, and it's all within my within the guide. And if you're wondering, well, what is this guide all about? Go to the YouTube channel and just scroll down, because I've got a series of just a bunch of them that I released from Anush and Machi and Altine and Dr. Shima, Envis, Marsha, Raj, Tarsia. All of these people purchased the guide, and they were so kind to give me video testimonials. So if you want to know what it's about, then just watch it. And then stay tuned right now, because I am going to be, later this evening, I'm going to be launching as my Easter, and I want to wish everybody that just the most wonderful Easter season here through this weekend. It's our Good Friday tomorrow, and in Canada we have our Easter Monday holiday, and it's a time to spend time with family. It's a time to just within the Christian religion is to remember and ponder on the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and the atonement that he wrought. And so it's a special time of year for all Christian religions. And so I want to wish happy Easter to everyone out there, and all the best to all of you amazing listeners and tuner-inners of the Express Entry Law EE Live Q&A that is also broadcast on YouTube, the Canadian Immigration Institute's YouTube channel. So thanks for tuning in. All right, guys, take care, and we will see you again soon. Mark Holthe, Canadian immigration lawyer, ex-immigration officer, and former high school teacher, signing off and wishing you guys all the best as you navigate this crazy world that we call Express Entry.